join.
Just don't forget that you have.
What is this exactly?
Ooh, whoa.
Don't remember this.
Frank, is this macromolecules? I probably need to go with that. You know, I don't want that right, but.
So is it unsaturated?
Okay, Katie, explain why this is an unsaturated fat. Yeah, you told me. I heard you say it.
Because it's bent, and if it's a straight line and it's saturated.
Correct. So having this double bond makes it bent. So this is an unsaturated fatty acid, okay, which is in the lipid.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to place wrong. That is just wow.
Look at what is in the molecule.
I did not.
There is a particular element that is unique.
Wait, that looks like a thing that's.
What makes it a protein? The nitrogen. Not really certain it is, but we're going to go with it. It is. It's a nitrogen base. Ooh, DNA question.
Where's the unit 1?
It's okay. G goes with C.
Which unit is macromolecules? 2?
This is back to our DNA fingerprinting from Unit 1. How does electrophoresis separate the riblets? The riblets are the fragments. Yes, they're restriction, fragment, length, polymorphism. Those are the bands in our DNA or in the gel. So how does it separate them? Based on what? Okay, tell me what you know about size.
The bigger
The bigger, the slower. Very good. So the smallest fragment is going to travel the furthest away from the well. What charge does DNA have? Negative. Positive phosphate. So you put the bands, you load the DNA at the negative end, and it moves toward the red, the positive. It runs to red.
I noticed it after I put and now they're doing more I get.
That is false. Smaller moves more quickly. Ooh, Unit 1.
Oh God, I'm gonna miss that one. But no, I didn't know it.
I thought it was Ritter because I thought rigid was like stiff.
Okay, guys, what is algar mortis? The temperature. Algar mortis is the body temperature. That's what we had to calculate to determine time of death. Rick, if you know, what do you mean? If you do, I give you the formula.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, oh yeah, I wouldn't expect you to know that. Because I know that either in this or in quizzes, there's a question, but the formula is there. So all you have to do is plug in the number, the temperature of the core body temperature of the body. Unit 1. Well, DNA was in Unit 1. What are the 3 parts of a nucleotide? Sugar, phosphate, base. Okay. The other term for building block is monomer. These monomers go together to make our really big macromolecules called polymers. Good. Mm-hmm.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you shouldn't have any problems. If they are, we'll take care of it. I'll make it easier for you. What makes it a protein? Having nitrogen. Good. Where does transcription occur? In the nucleus. And what is made? mRNA from DNA. Very good. Okay, that's all right. Transcription, that's transcription. The other half was translation. Ooh, if blood glucose is low, so if your blood sugar is low, what is released? So you're going to want to try and bring it back up. Oh. There you go.
Did you hear me?
Yes. Glucagon. Okay, what kind of feedback is this?
Negative feedback.
Negative
Because
feedback.
positive feedback means you just keep going.
And you don't. You glucagon, here's your set point. If it drops, you want to bring it back up. Glucagon is the hormone that does that. Good.
DNA polymerase and RNA polymerase.
That's going to be our builders.
No, you're not.
What is this process? The very first step in
DNA replication.
no. This is protein synthesis, so it's transcription. Patrick, it's alphabetical. So that's how my kids last year told me. Transcription comes before translation. I'm like, okay, whatever works.
Dummy.
Yeah, the C and the L. Transcription, translation. Ooh.
Dang it!
This was a tough one, and I get it. But I just heard Lexi. I don't think I told you guys this at my doctor's. And the last time I went in, I didn't know I was having a blood test a year ago. So I'd had my coffee in the morning, and with my coffee I had creamer, but that's all I had to drink. So when they did my blood work, my blood sugar was higher than normal. Do you guys understand why? Because I had sugar. Very good. So when I went in this time, I didn't drink coffee because I knew I was going to have blood work done. And she goes, we're going to run a test if your blood comes back high again. And I was like, okay, I know why it was high. She started in telling me they were going to run an A1C, and I shook my head. She goes, oh, do you have a history of diabetes in your family? I'm like, no, I teach it. I do know what an A1C test is. But she indicated that once someone in a family has it, there's a really good chance that other family members might. One of the big factors for type 2, though, is what? Diet and exercise. Think about families. They eat the same meals. They kind of mimic what goes on in the house. So I don't know. There may be some genetics to it, but there's probably also some environmental influences as well. But lucky, it came back fine, which I know. I didn't. Last time I didn't think about it. I might have told him. But like my sugar was 90, and the last time it was 110, 120. So it was a little higher. Because if it's high, we're running the A1C test. It was not. Keep that down. Ooh, who's always allowed? Ooh, back to HIPAA. That's unit 1.
Like this time he's like talking about someone like who broke their femur, and like he had like a picture of the femur up, but like at first I was like, is that because like
If you can't identify who it is, it's nothing. It's okay to share information as long as the people hearing have zero knowledge of who it is. The other time is to ask. And he very well may have asked this patient that I'm going to go talk about breaks of the whatever, can I use your... Because I told my AP kids, I post stuff to my Facebook group, and whoever's the moderator always asks, do you have their permission? Do you have their permission to post their work? So just having permission is usually enough. But if you can't tell who, because I've got x-rays back there of breaks. I know who they are, so I know I could use them. You know what I mean? I have no idea. And neither would you. You wouldn't know who the breaks are. So you won't break the HIPAA. You won't violate it. Ooh, 3 nucleotide bases together. That is a nucleotide, sugar, phosphate, and base. Put them together. Jeez. Okay, codon, 3 bases that code for an amino acid. Ah, this is unit 2. 3, I'm sorry. This was in this unit. I read somewhere this was an old cancer drug. I don't know how or what. I have to do some work. It is sickle cell. Like I told you guys, it causes a different hemoglobin to be made. Ooh, this is a good one. Where do we find DNA?
Yeah, I really wonder outside. If you find out,
Yeah.
what if our DNA just floated inside and
It'll pop up. Nice. It is in the nucleus. Good. So basically, after they eat, the blood sugar goes down and the insulin goes down. That's what the question's asking. So after they have dinner, their blood sugar goes down as well as the insulin goes down. What would make them a diabetic?
The sugar
The
goes up.
sugar's there. Very good. The sugar goes up and it stays up. Can I tell from that which type of diabetic they are?
Yeah.
No, not from blood sugar. We have to look at the insulin. How do I know?
Me.
Go ahead.
In type 1, you don't produce, and in type 2, you do, but they don't.
Doesn't do anything. Very good. So a type 1 insulin doesn't produce much or any. Okay? And a type 2 produces it, but it does nothing. What term do we use to describe type 2 diabetes a lot of times then? And what do we usually, a lot of times you'll hear it called insulin resistant. So even though you make insulin, then your receptors don't work. So I'm not disagreeing with it. The downside with that is we're seeing more younger people diagnosed with type 2. Yep, because of obesity. You're absolutely right. This is what we did in our lab.
Oh shoot.
How did we drop it? Think about how you held the pipe back.
Fat guess. I just guess out
A good 90.
not an 80, so.
It's all right. We held
I just
it.
remember holding
And
my
dropped
hands,
it.
and I was like, I think that's a 90.
Okay, good.
We're both right.
You did it right. Ooh, glucagon. does glucagon signal the liver to do? Release the sugar that's stored in glycogen.
Sometimes I miss these, but I
So
know
doesn't the pancreas like
The pancreas produces the glucagon.
so it's like a whole
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
The positive.
What gives it the negative charge?
Phosphate.
The phosphate in the backbone. Oh, wow, back to unit 1.
So do you know that
Wait, Addie, when are you taking music
the
appreciation?
thing was right here in the second period? And so that was right there.
I don't know.
Fortunately, we didn't do it. Obvious. We don't have a body.
It's only one thing.
Okay.
Both of those.
I'm still in second.
Because they basically just stick it right through the abdomen into the liver. I know. They're dead, remember. It's
I was
okay.
thinking, how do you get it in the liver?
You just poke it right through them. They're dead.
Miss, I heard you said like it's no big deal. It just pokes up.
I've not done that. Yeah. What is not a characteristic of type 1? No.
That's what I did, so if I screw you over, I screwed myself over too.
What does resistant mean again?
Insulin doesn't work.
You have it,
So
but
this
it
is
doesn't.
type 2 would be insulin resistant. They make the insulin, but it doesn't work to help bring the sugar into the out of the bloodstream.
So when you take music appreciation,
It's only during second period, and so is that math class.
so you're not taking it then?
Correct. So what's the building block of proteins is what it's asking.
You were teaching that music thing.
Music appreciation? Yeah, so now we don't have any classes.
Ooh.
So.
So what do you have to add to a reaction for hydrolysis to occur?
So Addie, you got it? No, think probably. No.
Hydro means water. Good. And lysis means you use water to break the bonds. So in a hydrolysis reaction, we're breaking down something. Is the opposite. Dehydration is the building. Most specific correct answer. And the nucleus. What does transcription do? It makes mRNA from DNA. Good. Because type 1s won't make any, or they make very, very little. Type 2 makes it, it just doesn't work. Glucose tolerance just tells us they're diabetic because their blood sugar goes up and it stays there. This goes back to our DNA fingerprinting from Unit 1.
That's so much. This is more stressful than biology class.
Very good. Restriction enzymes that are from bacteria. Ooh, the first step in an autopsy. Again, way back to Unit 1.
Oh, dang it.
Oh,
Dang it.
You have to examine the outside before you start cutting. So you look for any kinds of wounds, scratches, puncture sites, anything like that. And then you do the internal. Ooh, a lipid to a carbohydrate. Diagram A has more energy. Why? A is a fat, B is a sugar, carbohydrate. Why does diagram A have more energy? Think about where energy is in a molecule.
I got you. Are there any short
It has more bonds. Very good. So when you guys look at this, Katie, why is it not cell wall?
Because it's cell wall.
Because it's a plant and has cell walls. Okay, so insulin attaches here, but this is not where insulin enters, is it?
The GLUT4.
We have an internal protein that has to come to the surface to let it in. The GLUT4 transporter protein. So insulin receptors are important, but they're a signal molecule.
That is a phospholipid bilayer.
Yep, that's a phosphor. That's, if nothing else, I would have hoped you would have known that was a lipid bilayer.
Biology. What a time to be alive.
I don't remember anything in biology.
It's always comforting. What does HIPAA protect?
Sorry, Miss Lambert, I got really good math, so I couldn't pay attention for like 3 questions.
Patient confidentiality, correct. So any choices that are manners of death, so there may be more than one right answer, you only have to pick one of them. Manner of death. 5. Not cause, manner. Okay, 5 manners of death. Natural, accidental, we got those two. Suicide, homicide, undetermined. Undetermined. Okay. Now, causes of death would be heart attack, blood force trauma. Okay. Something like that. So there's a little difference in that. So the temperature around the body is hot. That's what we mean by high. It's hot. How does this affect the rate of cooling? This goes back to the lab we did.
I really don't know. I don't know the answer, Amy.
I pressed the wrong one with the right intention.
Oh, I got it right.
Why is it going to
Alexis, I love that.
It's going to not cool as quickly because it's hot. The body is technically supposed to start cooling because it stopped doing any metabolism, but it will slow the rate. It's the opposite. DNA is made into RNA. Ah, we talked about this one already. When you use water to build a polymer. Dehydration synthesis is what is called. You take an OH from one molecule and H from the other.
Oh.
Yeah, so I would take both of them. I usually am specific and say ribosomes. We're halfway there. Good. Homeostasis.
And I have penronite.
That's a good question.
Technically, you can do exercise.
Correct. Now, guys, if you remember, GLUT4 can also come to the surface of the cell membrane with exercise. So exercise does help lower blood sugar. So even though the receptors may be bad, we can still reduce the amount of sugar. So yeah, we can hopefully reverse it. Ooh, here you go, positive feedback. There you go. It's increased. Oh no, it continues. The, childbirth is the example. Actually, so does blood clotting. No. Negative feedback, you'd have the baby forever. Negative feedback comes back to a set point, Patrick. So blood sugar, body temperature. So if you're cold, okay, what do? You shiver to bring your body temperature back up. If you're hot, you sweat to bring it back down. If we're positive feedback and you're hot, you shiver and try and make more and you get hotter and hotter and hotter, which is dangerous. So positive feedback does not maintain homeostasis, negative does. So there's not much positive because of that. But a baby, when a woman produces oxytocin, which causes the uterus to contract, when the uterus contracts, it makes more oxytocin, which causes the uterus to contract more, eventually popping out the baby, because that's how it happens.
Unless you have an emergency C-section.
Yeah, then it doesn't matter.
Don't you like not get put under if you have an emergency?
Oh no, you do.
Oh, you do? Okay.
At some point, okay, to some degree. I don't know. I've never had one, so I don't
So
know.
what would happen if like the doctor were like going into like a C-section or whatever, and then you started giving birth after all?
You wouldn't. They would not do a C-section if they thought there was any chance the baby could fit through the birth canal.
Because you could harm yourself.
No, but can't the mom request a C-section?
Yes, she
If
can.
only if you have probably previous deliveries that you could not do.
Isn't it?
So first-time moms can't go in and go,
It's very
I want a
dangerous.
C-section. They're gonna be like, no, you're gonna try and deliver it naturally.
It's dangerous
Like,
unless
it's
it's needed.
Yeah.
What?
Like, it's safer to have a natural.
Oh, absolutely. But again, if you've had, my niece, for example, had difficulty and they're like, your birth canal just isn't big enough.
They say it's
Okay,
dangerous
so once
to not
maybe
try.
would they maybe get like stuck?
Absolutely can, so that's what they try and
I
avoid.
did.
Yeah,
I got stuck and they had to shove me right back in.
and do a C-section.
And do an emergency
Yeah,
C-section.
they do,
And I almost
but
died.
Austin, they're not gonna do it unless they just know there's no way the child can get through the birth canal.
I literally got this
My
big.
mom had
Definitely
I had
can.
7
two other
pounds.
siblings, and my mom had 3 C-sections for all.
Yeah, my niece did too. What is this a picture of, in other words?
No, man.
When my mom was giving
I was
birth
like,
to my sister,
yeah, you
or
did.
not, but I was like, because she had a cyst the
I was
size
not
of
big.
a softball, and it was right beside her, so like they opened her up about it, you could like see the baby.
Neat. My great nephews had surgery prior to being delivered.
My mom, when she.
Okay, what's hematocrit do? Measures.
Red blood cells.
So red blood cells, it's this part divided by the total.
No, when my mom
Times
gave
100.
birth to me, there was a bunch of medical students in the room.
That's fine.
And my actual doctor that, like, did the whole thing was a medical student.
That's all right. My doctor happened to be there. What makes up the outside? The backbone. Not the rungs of the ladder, the backbone. So on my model, it's the black and white parts. Sugar phosphate. The rungs of the ladder are the bases. Okay, so this is the basis. This is a sugar, phosphate, sugar. Okay, that is the backbone.
I get my wisdom teeth out today for Christmas.
Dr. Warner doing it?
Dr. Greg Warner.
Yeah, not Warner. I'm sorry, Cowan did my kids. Dr. Cowan did my kids. He's Dr. Warner's brother-in-law. Okay. This is a reason that Anna is fatigued.
He doesn't have one.
She doesn't have enough energy because glucose cannot get into her cells. The other reason is she doesn't have oxygen either because she's anemic. In order to make ATP, you need a fuel source, sugar, and oxygen. Oh, yeah.
Come on. Like having cancer.
So what can we use to get DNA? Good, all of them. Now, guys, they don't do that at the crime scene, though. They take it back, and they do PCR, then they'll do analysis. Oh, yeah, things to remember from Unit 1.
Oh no.
The bases of RNA. There is no thymine in RNA.
Right here, right now.
Ooh, diagram.
I love diagrams.
What is that a diagram of? It's a protein. That is a protein. What are the 2 steps of protein synthesis? Transcription and translation. Good. Glucose tolerance. That's drinking the sugar water. What does it measure? Amount of blood glucose. Good. And that will show what? If you're diabetic, because if your blood sugar does not come down, if it stays up, you're a diabetic.
I know it, I just clicked the wrong one.
Segment of DNA that codes for a protein. So we've got about 20 more.
What is this?
If it codes for a protein, it's a segment of DNA. Gene the dancing machine. Okay, what's the complement of this in DNA? ATAGC, what is the complement?
Good read again.
DNA.
I love those ones where you can't get kind of guess, like read like the first story going right. I am not
Okay. If it were RNA, what would you see?
Use.
What, sir?
UAU.
What? Anytime you're building a molecule. So if you're building, if we're building glycogen, dehydration. If we're building a protein, dehydration. Anytime we're building a macromolecules when it happens. Okay? Oh, food sample question.
Yeah, but I won't
Definitely not sample.
be we both went. Alright. Not sure why.
Okay. Why? Why is it sample 2? How many calories? 4,000 per gram. Key is you have to use the same measurement. So, yep, sample 2 has more calories, therefore more energy. Absolutely. Ketoacidosis. Usually with type 1.
Ooh, yeah.
This way? It's gonna come back.
Because you're always trying to come back to a set point. Body temperature, blood sugar, if it's low, you want to bring it back up. If it's high, you want to bring it down. That is negative feedback. It is always a double loop. Oh yeah, unit 2. Yeah.
Oh shoot, I didn't read that
Because
correct.
if the warm water was still water, it was high water, that's gonna be like, yeet. Don't worry about that. Like,
I thought that circle was the same. Oh, it's gonna go. Wow.
Let me look at the picture. The cell,
Because there's more solute
the cell is hypo because there's less stuff in the cell. It didn't ask for the solution around it.
okay.
Good
I
point.
got it.
No, and that's a really good, that's some finesse in a question asking. What is it asking? It's asking about the cell. The cell has no solute, so it's hypoglycemic. Which way is water going to move then? Out. Water's going to move out because there's less water outside. Yep.
Okay.
I test myself.
Yep. It is both a sugar and a monosaccharide. Good. Hyperglycemia is when blood glucose is. Hyperglycemia.
And the cells are shrinking, right?
Hyperglycemia.
Eventually, yes. Because then the water moving out of the
Correct.
cells goes-
Correct. I in my head, I didn't know if you were asking red blood cells. In a hyperglycemic environment, water is going to move out of the cells because there's a hypertonic solution outside, and that makes you thirsty. That makes you pee more. Those are all symptoms of type of diabetes.
Saying that makes you thirsty made me thirsty.
Sorry.
You need some water out of
No, but that's kind of weird though.
What's going to happen if glucose enters the cell? What's going to happen to the concentration of glucose in the blood then? It decreases because it's leaving and going into the cell. Good.
No, like Wednesday's always like this or
The medical examiner is like the person doing the actual autopsy.
Yeah, that's
Wait, the minimum? Are you kidding me?
They have to be a doctor. The medical examiner has to be an MD, a doctor.
I'm so
Okay? The autopsy assistant in high school, they don't need anything special. Okay?
I think that's stupid.
Well, they don't. I did it. They don't do anything. They have to be. They probably learn on the job. Not a characteristic of type 2. Doesn't produce insulin. Here you go. Here's a good one. What pairs with thymine? I'm expecting. You should answer this quickly because you should know this one. What pairs with thymine? A goes with T, G goes with C. What is the end result of translation? It is to make a protein. Are y'all good? Okay. Ooh, what's different between DNA and RNA? Like 7 more questions, then we'll be done. Here's, I can give it to you as a homework. So I'll give you the code. Because it's really long, Katie.
Like 100. 200.
200?
If we do better than 6th period, can we get extra?
I'll talk about that.
Yeah.
We'll see. Fatty acids and glycerols are monomers of which macromolecule?
I don't know this because I don't.
Think about, oh no, it doesn't. Think about fatty acids. That should help you with something. Fatty acid. It's a lipid. It's a fat. They're the triglycerides.
Doesn't butter have?
Yes. Oh yeah, it's got a lot of fat. Diagram which would give you more energy. So we're back to looking. Didn't we already have this?
I pressed the wrong one.
Asked why.
Oh, thank you. It asked why. It didn't say.
Sorry, how do you get that out?
I flipped them on you, didn't I?
No, I was right by the middle and then it pressed the wrong one and I'm just giving.
It is A. The fat has more energy.
Yet I'm still in second.
5 more. There isn't one. That's exactly. If it's something you haven't heard of, chances are it's not the right answer. What does the M stand for? Messenger RNA. Good. Oh, it's getting tricky. That's correct. I hope my marks will have a right. Okay, what does insulin do to blood sugar? It lowers it. What does glucagon do? Brings it back up. Both produced by the pancreas. Ignore the letters. I got nothing. What makes it, basically? Genetic. The letters do matter. Yes, they help you.
Oh my.
Hemoglobin and mutation. I'm so sorry. 2 more. In other words, in what molecule do we store glucose?
I just need to review all of these. I need to learn it, not review it.
Last one. It is stored as glycogen in the liver. Here we go. The shape of DNA.
I mean, that's technically right.
A double helix. Good.
Oh, come on.
Woo!
Yeah, go Kaylin. Wow.
Lexi and Grace. Nice. Now I got
Oh,
2.
look, that's me.
You. Oh, look, me. So I know who won. Hang on. No.
What?